When I see a performative alt person, but I can't prove it. What on earth is going on over at alternative TikTok when we're not dealing with people trying to push the agenda of naturally alternative, that hilarious concept? We now instead have people talking about people being performatively alternative. How are we just forgetting the word poser exists? The TikTok variant of alternative is truly something to marvel at and spectate. Everything going on over there is constant nothing burger after nothing burger, filled with discount codes and try-on hauls, and have you tried this brand and they do overnight shipping? Wow, they're so subversive and countercultural. Yes, this brand is so definitely alternative. Let us remind ourselves of this article written all the way back in 1994. Alternative, a breathtakingly meaningless word, the emptiest cultural category imaginable. It proposes that the establishment is reprehensible, but that our substitute establishment can still somehow blissfully coexist with it on the same commercial playing field. So, if alternative can blissfully coexist with the mainstream on the exact same commercial playing field, let's test that theory. Welcome to Alt or Not, the game show where everything is edgy, rebellious, and conveniently made available with overnight shipping. First up, we have this little alternative outfit from everybody's favorite goth-like fast fashion brand. And of course, it will have some monstrosity of a name like Moonlight Misery Mesh Maxi Monster. And it will cost like $46. But guess what? You can ship it overnight to your door in less than 24 hours. And Klarna's accepted. Alt or not? Trick question. It's alt with a little TM. It's trademarked. And guess what? Creepy Old Man Incorporated freaking loves it. It looks spooky, it feels edgy, and guess what? It runs on Shopify. And okay, how about this one? A masked metal band headlining your favorite rebellion edgy festival stage with merch bundles, VIP photo ops, and freaking pyrotechnics. Alt or not? I'm sorry, but if you got a fog machine in a freaking tour bus, you're not alt. You're Taylor Swift Halloween edition. Backed by the same big organizations, the same big record labels, just with a different color palette and sound. Yet another identity to be sold back to the masses. Alternative, especially on TikTok, more often than not, when it gets brought up, when we see it, is completely divorced from its actual meaning of, being alternative, something different, and more likely than not, just another identity being sold back to us. The majority of alternative TikTok content can be summarized to try-on hauls, discount codes, and people sensationalizing the mere trappings of actual counterculture to maximize likes, clicks, and engagement. And the fact that TikTok alternatives tries to coexist with, mainstream trends like naturally alternative or, performatively alternative, just basically rebranding poser, is the perfect example of this. And if you're like, well, Cal, where is the real subversive then? Show us. My friend, it is quite literally all there. It's just never going to be in the sensationalized TikTok way you've come to know and love. If you want to see it on TikTok, there's this group that document all sorts of actual bands from, genres like hardcore, and the bands aren't even trying to do anything in a sensationalized way to maximize likes, clicks, and engagement. They're just performing for the love of the genre. But Cal, I don't have TikTok. Totally fair, totally valid. It is a hellscape over there. Here on YouTube, there's this page that documents hardcore bands. No, Cal, I don't want it on YouTube. I want to read somebody's thoughts and feelings about the scene. Okay, there's this person on Twitter. And these are just a few examples of people who genuinely care about actual counterculture, actual subculture, but they're not doing it in a sensationalized way to, maximize likes, clicks, and engagement. They're not trying to stuff like a brand deal or a discount code or some new trendy look from a brand that you can get overnight shipped to your door down your throat. They're just there because they simply love it. And of course, the conversations around this performative alternative person on TikTok, this imagined persona we're currently concocting in our mind, is, well, as uninspiring as you imagine so, right? Comment with 38,000 likes, Caroline Carr. How are we still talking about Caroline Carr in this day and age? And the conversations around it are so just base level, just nonsense. Oh, Caroline Carr actually used to do cosplays and had no tattoos. Yes, if you do 5 minutes of research, when Caroline was younger, she did indeed do cosplays. Additionally, Caroline also lived in a very conservative household. Therefore, she didn't have full control over her autonomy. Therefore, she couldn't present in a way that was truly authentic to her. Thus, when Caroline moved out, she got tattoos and now looks different and now looks like that alternative look that you also know and love. But because Caroline Carr had big digital footprint when she was younger, no, can't be alternative. Complete tea-pottery, unthought-provoking point. Well done. I can't lie, Ronnie Radke, literally the definition of overdoing it. This is the level of alternative and subversive and countercultural we're dealing with over on alternative TikTok. We're talking about people like Ronnie Radke, just these sensationalized co-worker core musicians. If you're counterculture, if you're subversive, does arena tours, has merch upon merch, and I don't know, has freaking pyrotechnics, it is just another mainstream thing that has a different color palette and different wording to make it seem edgy and rebellious. Jake Weber, Tari Yummy. Here's the thing with these arguments, right? They're naming all like these buzzword people that are big in the alternative scene online, and it's very much the mainstream understanding of alternative. And what do I mean by that word? It's very superficial, form over substance level of understanding of alternative. It's looking a certain way. You know, I've got dyed hair, I've got clothes that are distressed, I've got tattoos, I'm so alternative. I'm just looking for alternative mutuals, you know, people that look and dress like me and listen to, I don't know, freaking arena selling mainstream bands. You know, the hilarious thing is when people mention these people as their idea of performative alternative people, I then just click on their profiles out of curiosity, and I shit you not, they will look exactly the same. They will be doing try-on hauls, and they will be using audios of just trending songs, and they will be like, yeah, Deftones, nobody's heard of that big fuck-off gigantic band before, have they? Nobody has heard of nobody knows Nine Inch Nails like I do. Oh my gosh, please just stop recycling the same bands from yesteryear. If you are truly so alternative, if you're truly so different, and you're gonna say those people are, you know, the posers, and you're gonna pedestal yourself and being like, yeah, I've identified the real performative people, but I'm also gonna just dance along to whatever alternative song is trending on TikTok. Are you really any different from them? The only difference is they get hundreds of thousands of likes and you get like 30, and it's probably your mum and your close friends. And this is not me, you know, being like, I'm number one Jake Weber defender or whatever. It's just like, I don't get how people are still thinking that alternative, especially on things like TikTok, is actually anything that is alternative, anything that is of countercultural or subversive nature. It's not. It's all sensationalized slop for just mainstream enjoyment. The word alternative is in no way, shape or form linked to actual counterculture or actual subcultures anymore. It is an identity you can buy as long as you've got a credit card, and it will get shipped to your door overnight, and suddenly you're now alternative. And I think when I look at it through that lens, like the understanding that alternative is just another identity to be brought and sold within the mainstream sphere, I don't really have any negative feelings or any animosity towards people like Jake, because why should I? They're simply operating in the mainstream understanding of alternative. They have their Hot Topic brand deals, they do their TikToks to, you know, mainstream alternative songs, you know, songs from like bands from yesteryear that were very popular and now a huge part of mainstream identity. What is there to critique there? It's just another identity, it's another loadout, there's nothing subversive, there's nothing doing it different about dyeing your hair or wearing distressed clothing, there's nothing subversive about wearing big boots. Once you acknowledge this, I just don't pay any attention to these people, and when I do, I'm just like, it's just a nothing burger, really. You know, Jake tries to be a good person, seemingly. I saw them do that thing where they were like, giving free clothes, alternative clothes, which should probably just be like Hot Topic-y stuff, to people that can't afford it. So in that realm where alternative is just another mainstream identity, as long as you've got your credit card to, you know, swipe and buy it, there's some good being done there, right? Aside from the anarchy tattoo. But hey, that's basically the mainstream alt starter pack at this point. Alternative on TikTok is largely controlled by the mainstream understanding, and therefore to them it will just be a style with discount codes and a curated playlist to make you feel so rock and roll, so nobody gets me. And because of this, there are so many bands that package themselves in this way. Think of like TX2. It is the complete sensationalized, over-the-top caricature of being alternative, right? But it is so clear that the band TX2 is purely for that mainstream understanding of alternative. It's the looking and shouting a certain way, so I clearly must be different, right? I clearly must be subculture. I must be subversive. I must be doing it different. At best, the TX2 band is a gateway to actual subculture, and at worst just perpetuates this problem, this disconnect, that this imagined like self-rules that alternative actually means anything, and then you have this discourse online, this absolute nothing burger of performative alt people, when the reality is this is all just the Hollywood over-the-top version of counterculture, right? And I see people try and defend like the TX2 band and Evan, the lead singer, being like, well, they always talk up and speak up about things going on in the world. But yeah, they do it in the most sensationalized, over-the-top way to basically push and shove themselves to the front of the ever-churning slop pit, which is alternative TikTok, to make themselves known and heard and seen, right? I promise you, if you go to shows, like I was literally at a show a couple weeks ago and Split Knuckle were performing, like one of my favorite bands. And at the end of their set, they did a piece, you know, to the audience, talking about the weird, horrible things going on in the UK currently, and also just making it abundantly clear that Nazis have no place in the scene. Now, because they're not doing a piece to their iPhone being like, smash like if you agree, or we're the hardest hardcore band you ever heard, it's not getting that sensationalized engagement over on TikTok. Why? Because it's an authentic engagement with the actual scene and not just this just horrible, and especially you see it so much in metal now, but just metal that's so clearly packaged for the mainstream, and it's just got all like this just shithousery tropes of metal, and it like, this is the hardest song ever, and it's just so cringe. It truly is cringe. It's just the mainstream mindset of consume. I just want the most easy, obvious version, the simplest form of something. I don't want to have to spend 5 minutes reading or looking for something. I just want the one that makes the most noise, and that's what TX2 does. Like I saw TX2's page do that video about somebody flashed at my show, oh my gosh, and it all just happened to be caught on camera, but it's also sensationalized. This is not a genuine interaction with the scene, right? TX2 perfectly summarized what alternative TikTok and mainstream alternative is, which is a caricature. And I can totally understand why people new to the scene are so drawn in by, you know, bands like TX2. They're loud and they're noisy, and they make it very clear that they are here. And they do it in a manner which perfectly assimilates with the trends and themes on TikTok. Additionally, alternative clothing brands using words like gothic signals to newcomers, hey, we're actually part of the alternative subculture, we're in the know, so you should buy with us and you should get overnight shipping, and don't worry if you can't afford it, we've got Klarna, pay in installments, yes, keep the ever-burning machine churning and we will sell you slop. But we do digress. The point is, there is a reason so many people within the scenes have a genuine disdain for TX2. There is a genuine reason why so many people in these spaces always stress it really does not matter how you dress. And if you actually go to shows, local shows, people will dress in all types of ways that aren't even alternative. Are they really alternative? Oh my gosh, mind blown. Look, don't get me wrong, when you do go to shows, there are, you know, trends, as with all, you know, like social tribes, you know, there are ways that people commonly do dress, perhaps, but that does not buy your membership into the place or into the subculture. Turning up and getting amongst it in its authentic, real form, you know, away from the likes, clicks, and engagement and the over-the-top social media. That is the realness of it all. Or, you know, it's in interacting with the various outlets online, like the ones I plugged at the beginning, who actually care about the scene. So to go back to like the original TikTok, and I'm sure like the person that made it just did it as like a throwaway joke, not really thinking about it, right? Just like, those performative alt people. But then by the moment we already are starting to like focus on whether somebody is, you know, visually alternative but actually performative, I think we've kind of already lost the plot. We all get kind of caught up in this like poser police game, but who's actually putting on the show? Who's making the zines? Who's doing anything apart from aesthetic cosplay? Because we can all do that with our credit card. The ones actually doing the work, you know, playing in basements, designing flyers, running like distribution pages, they are simply never the ones on alt TikTok's curated feed, because they do not fit the over-the-top caricature of what alternative needs to be in the mainstream. The algorithm will always reward performance and never substance. And we've got to be honest, right? We've all brought into this alternative ecosystem one way or another at one point in our life. I'm not saying you can't dress alternative. Clearly I do. Septum, nose piercings, tattoos, long hair. I'm literally like one in a billion? No, that makes it seem like I'm rare. But there's like dozens and dozens and dozens of me at any local show. Just blokes with long hair. We're everywhere, right? But in that, I acknowledge it's the aesthetic I like, but there is nothing countercultural or different about it, therefore there's nothing alternative about it. If we step away from the mainstream lens of alternative, you've got to acknowledge there's nothing no longer quirky or different or out there about dyeing your hair, getting piercings, getting tattoos, buying from alternative brands. Why? Because big business has capitalized on all of that, and therefore the real subversive behavior comes from authentically engaging with the actual subcultural and countercultural spaces. And that is always going to be in your local shows, never the arena tours. If you see pyrotechnics and VIP meet and greet packages, run for the fricking hills, my friends. I'm not saying you can't enjoy those things, but oh, golly gosh, have we gotten so far away from alternative. Alternative, gotta be one of the best marketing concepts ever created by big business. I've been your boy Cal. I don't think I even introduced myself at the beginning of this video. Yeah, I'm Cal, by the way. That's Skog. What's up with that? Nothing really, that's just us assigned names. Yes, Skog, anything to say on the matter?
Beep boop.
Groundbreaking as always, Skog. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna go now. Yep. Gonna go. You should go too. I'm done here. Unless you're writing a comment, then you can stay a little while, but I'm gonna go. Oh my god, he's going so fast. He's so... Okay, bye.